Hello, my name's Chris from the Mad Better channel. Welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to offer you 2 tricks which will lead to 3 tips you can try out in your photo editing over the Christmas holidays. The first tip is for when you want to mask foreground water or other bright reflective material. If regular shape, you could of course try the object selection tool or the luminance range, or finally a brush. But if the water is irregular shaped, try this trick involving flipping the image and using a sky mask. It doesn't work in all cases, but it's worth a go. So here we have this image. I've done some basic edits, as you can see. Here we are. And then I've applied a sky mask and edited the sky. Now of course we need to make this water on the path here match the sky. So that's what we'll do now. So the keyboard shortcut for rotating an image is Command or Control plus the square bracket keys. The opening square bracket rotates counterclockwise and the closing square bracket clockwise. But as we're flipping this 180, it doesn't really matter which way you go. So Control square bracket and Control square bracket again. Now we'll create a new sky mask and see what we get. So you see it's selected all the foreground water, but it's also got some of the real sky, but we can easily deal with that by subtracting a linear gradient. So there we've got rid of the foreground, and now we can flip the image back to the right way up again. Control square brackets twice. So we now need to make the adjustments to this mask. Reduce exposure by about 1/3. Highlights -70-ish. Shadows raised by about 40. Temperature, cool it off, so -30-ish. And we'll add some dehaze, about 20. So that's not a bad match, before and after. So there we are, we've quickly selected the foreground water without having to do a great deal of effort and managed to match it to the sky. So here's the overall, that's the original image and that's the final image. The next trick is to remember that masks can start, finish, or both start and finish outside the area of the image itself. This enables you to get different and interesting effects. So the first trick I'll show you is using what I call a whole image mask. That is, one mask covering the whole of the image. And that's really easy to create, as I'll demonstrate here. So we'll go into masking, choose a linear gradient. All you need to do is hold the pointer outside the image and pull away from the image. And there you are, you've got a full image mask. So why might you want to do this? Well, most of the adjustments you make in the develop module, or most of the basic adjustments, are in the basic panel, and you only have one of those, i.e. you can only use it once. But what happens if you want to do, say, more gentle adjustments in 2 or 3 goes, or slightly different adjustments? Well, having a whole image mask enables you to do as many effective basic panel adjustments as you want. All the adjustments in the masking panel are the same as in the basic panel. The only real difference is temperature, where in the masking panel it's showing as 0 and you can go from +100 to -100, whereas in the basic panel itself you have the actual Kelvin temperature. But that's not really important because you tend to eyeball temperature and tint anyway. And what if you'd maxed out a slider in the basic panel but you wanted to have a bigger adjustment? Well, again, this enables you to do that by going into a whole image mask and moving that slider further in the direction you want to go. There is actually a third reason, which I'll come to shortly. So to demonstrate that the adjustments in a whole image mask can be the same or are the same as the basic panel, we'll look at this image. This is the original image, and I made some adjustments. They're fairly heavy adjustments just so you can see what's going on, but you'll see highlights have been reduced to -100, shadows opened up to +100, +25 of clarity, +20 of dehaze, and +30 of saturation. So if we go back to the same image, you'll see this time I've created a whole image mask, which if I turn it on, you can see the overlay, and the adjustments are the same as before. Highlights minus 100, shadows plus 100. I've had to guess the temperature changes, so minus 20 and minus 10, because we don't have the Kelvin as shot temperature here. Saturation plus 30, clarity plus 25, and dehaze plus 20. So if we go back to the grid view, this is the image with the basic panel adjustments, and that's the image with the whole image mask adjustments. Basic panel adjustments, whole image adjustments. So you can see they're basically the same. Very slight difference in the sky, but nothing really noticeable if the two images weren't side by side. I mentioned a third reason you might want to use whole image masks, and that concerns this amount slider here. If you did your adjustments in the basic panel and you decided they were either too heavy or not heavy enough, you'd have to go back and adjust the sliders all in proportion to achieve the same effect. But if you do it via a whole image mask, you have this amount slider here, so I can reduce the effect all the way down to 0, and then gradually introduce it as appropriate. And I also have the option of actually going over the top and doubling the adjustment, although that obviously looks rather sickly, but that gives you much easier, much more flexibility in how you temper the adjustments you've made, either decreasing their intensity or increasing their intensity. So I think that's a very useful feature to have. Hi there. If you're getting any value from this video, perhaps you would consider giving it a like, and maybe even subscribing to the channel. It would be good to grow the channel so I can get more feedback on what people want to learn about or for me to demonstrate. Many thanks. The second trick involves using radial gradients which start and end a long way outside the image to give what is effectively a rectangular mask. Let me demonstrate. First we need to reduce the image on screen, Control minus, like that. Then create new mask, radial gradient. So we pull out our radial gradient and we go long way outside the image. Keep going as long as you want. So now you can see we have a rectangle mask. Zoom back in, and of course you can change the size of it. If you hold the Alt key, you can change from one side only. You can of course feather it as you wish, and you can change its angle like that. So that's the basics of creating a rectangular mask in a simple way. If you don't want your mask to extend the whole width of the image, or you want a square mask, that's easy to do with an intersect radial gradient. So hold down the Alt key, intersect radial gradient, and then pull out your radial gradient, again going, if you want parallel sides, going way outside the image. And there's your square mask. Zoom in a bit. Again, you can adjust if you want a rectangle or you want a square. You can feather these two sides. Obviously you can feather all four sides if you so choose. So that's all fairly self-explanatory. There's more flexibility as well. If you rotate either of the radial gradients, then you can get diamond type shapes like that. The only restriction is that the two opposite sides have to be parallel. Some time ago I did an earlier video about creating a rectangular mask which involved 4 linear gradients, so that was rather more complicated, but it had the advantage that the opposite sides didn't have to be parallel, so you take your choice. Anyway, just some thought on how you could create various shaped masks which in some ways resemble the rectangular marquee tool in Photoshop. Anyway, I hope you found all this useful, and perhaps you could comment if there are other things you want to learn about Lightroom masking. And in the meantime, I wish everyone a happy Christmas and a wonderful New Year. Thanks a lot.